Are you in need of financial assistance or contemplating filing for bankruptcy? Well, here's the place for you. Freedom Law PC, owned and operated by Carissa Potts, resident of Grosse Pointe, running 3 locations in Harper Woods, Port Huron, and Wyandotte. Her first firm opened in August 2014. Before contacting Mrs. Potts, understanding the difference between civil and criminal law is very important. To begin with, criminal law deals with the behavior that is or can be construed as an offense against the public, society, or the state. Unlike civil law, which relates to the behavior that constitutes an injury to an individual or other private property, like a car or a house. She focuses on bankruptcy law and helps her clients decide whether they can and should file for bankruptcy. Carissa Potts has worked for 2 law firms before realizing her potential to own and run her own business. Being principal lawyer at her firm requires a lot of organization and comprehension on a day-to-day basis. When asked about how she spends most of her time in a week, she said,
I counsel and advise clients in filing for bankruptcy. I represent clients in their bankruptcy proceedings. A typical week includes meeting with clients, talking to clients about their cases, advising clients, preparing petition schedules, appearing in court, and drafting legal pleadings.
Mrs. Potts attended Wayne State University and studied law for several years, understanding and observing what happened around her daily. Now that you know the difference between civil and criminal law, you can visit her website, www.freedomlawpc.com. When you open the page, you will see the home screen with quick information about the firm, as well as a contact number to call, text, or even fax the firm. By clicking in the top in the option box on the right, you will see the options to read about the firm, the services they offer, an FAQ, testimonials, and so on. Their services offered include the following: Chapter 7 bankruptcy, Chapter 13 bankruptcy, income tax debts and IRS, garnishments, mortgage foreclosure, mortgage loan modification, sued by mortgage company, and so on. When you click on each of them, you are given a simplified description of each so you have an idea of what you'll be talking about with Mrs. Potts. Once you decide to set up a consultation, you are given the option for the location, date, and time if it's in person, on Zoom, or even over the phone. Mrs. Potts and her firm are very flexible. Another way to get in contact with Mrs. Potts is through her business card, which includes the link to the website, her name, phone number, and her primary location being in Harper Woods. Before she speaks to her clients, they must fill out intake forms which sum up the most important things that tend to have the following information, such as your name, social security number, financial information like if you're married and the income you have, as well as student loans, mortgages, and even more.
My clients are happier when they know what is going on with their case and what to expect. I find that for the most part, people are okay with things not going well as long as they are prepared for possible outcomes. It is extremely important to communicate effectively to manage client expectations.
These forms are more often than not looked at over by her assistant, which does this before the consultation. Her job is to summarize and take notes on these intake forms so Mrs. Potts has some key information to go off of so she's not going in blind. During her consultations, she uses lots of words and things many people are not familiar with. She has spent several years working these words into her vocabulary without having to think about what to say. Some key terms are Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which is filed to the state, and asking for a fresh start. They can walk away from their debt, yet at a cost. This is what most people tend to think of when they think of bankruptcy. It's the most difficult as people often have to give up certain things like home, transportation, and their assets. Additionally, a Chapter 7 bankruptcy timeline is only 90 days. Once your case is filed, you attend a hearing, and after 90 days you are discharged, but have to make sure that you meet your requirements and that there is no bad faith. Another key term Mrs. Potts uses is Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which is what most people prefer as it gets everybody off their back, and a payment plan is set up based on your assets and your income. This plan is for most people tends to last 5 years and are done in monthly payments. Payment is decided after looking at what your debts are and what needs to be paid off first. For a Chapter 13 bankruptcy timeline, this lasts 3 to 5 years, and for most it is 5 years. You propose a plan or a repayment plan, your creditors file objections and sign off, your plan is approved, and after 3 to 5 years, you are discharged. Next is provided a Venn diagram of a simplified version of the differences between Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 bankruptcies. On the left is Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which is a normal bankruptcy, a fresh start, and you walk away from your debt, while on the other hand, the Chapter 13 bankruptcy gets everyone off your back. You set up a payment plan, which is 3 to 5 years. You pay back your creditors, which is based off assets and your income. Some other key terms she uses include secured debt, which is connected to property. So basically, if you don't pay it, you lose that thing, such as your mortgage, you can lose your house. Unsecured debt is not connected to property, which is your credit cards and medical bills. And finally, garnish, which is basically your creditors taking money from your paycheck. Some other key terms would include discharge, which means that thing is gone or it goes away. This includes medical bills and civil infractions. The word treat also relates to discharge, which means wipe out and take care of. And cram down tends to deal with vehicles, which means you pay back at the worth of a car and not what you owe on it. On a day-to-day basis, Mrs. Potts works with her clients in person, online, or over the phone, determining if she is able to help them in any sort of way. Lots of reading, writing, and especially communicating are involved. Mrs. Potts takes a lot of time writing, reading, and analyzing different clients' positions, and without the help of communication, none of this is possible.
I read all day, every day. I like to say that my entire profession is based on words. Using the right words to express my client's position can make the difference in my client's case. I have to be able to take my client's facts and create a narrative and/or story that makes sense and that I can sell.
Once on the phone for your consultation, she will always say something like, "In your own words, tell me what's going on and we will go from there." This helps her understand where the client is coming from, and she can get a better idea of their situation than if she were to just look at the intake forms. Mrs. Potts says that this job takes tough skin, hard work, and you must be a good problem solver. She says that students need to always try their best and exclaims,
"Keep grades up, learn how to write well, learn how to think critically."
Mrs. Potts and her attorneys are here to help you and ready for anything you throw their way. And she said,
"Most rewarding part of my job is providing value to my clients and having clients who are very satisfied with the results and services that my office has provided."
Please call the number on your screen to schedule a free consultation with Freedom Law PC. Thank you.